Hey traders, Nick here. May 1st. Sell in May and go away. Did they? No, they didn't. Not yet. All right, we're looking at some tickers. Before I forget, subscribe to the channel. It's free. And set the bell, the alarm, because we're going live a couple times a week before the market opens, like today we did that. We charted for about an hour, maybe 55 minutes. And we went through, I don't know, dozens of tickers. So you can join us. It's free to attend. It's basically a preview of what we do all day, every day. We have a trading room, about 300 people. You may consider joining it. Reach out in the comment section is fine, or you know where you reach me. A lot of people have my emails. Okay, we're talking MSTR. A few reviews about some earnings. This one is kind of a wonky one. So if you look at the P&L, it doesn't make a lot of sense. It's basically a story of balance sheets, and people believe here the story is that if they play their cards right, they can ride the inflation and the assets that are crypto up to the moon, basically. So I would not want to short it. I'm a believer in crypto's legitimacy. So I think those super smart people say idiotic things about Bitcoin, about value being fake and all of that. But that's a different conversation. So needless to say, I am long crypto on many different levels. And we kind of nailed the bottom on that thing, and we're enjoying the fruits of the labor there, even as simply as just being investors in Beta, which tracks the price of Bitcoin, and it's an ETF. You can trade it in any account. Okay, having said that, they reported, MSTR reported earnings after hours, and I don't think it's doing much. It's right here. We have had a recent high, we have had a recent low. So the big picture on this guy is that you have a battle of two short-term lines. Now, if your goal is to own it for the long term, don't bother with the short-term gyrations. Just believe in your investment. Don't go all in. Leave room to add later whenever the market goes stupid and sell off everything to add more and improve your price entry. I'm against anyone that has super conviction for the long term. I don't care how smart you are or how well we are with levels, and we are really good with levels. You have to leave room for other things that may come up, like this banking crisis, not crisis, that we've had. All right, so this is a 2-hour chart. Couple months worth of data, February on the left through now. This is May 1st, in case I haven't said that. Before you go anywhere, the sandbox for now is the failure here at 348 or 349 and a bounce at 279.78. And I know there's a failure up here a little bit. Okay, so there's one higher and one higher above that, but those get to be a little bit older, so I think this one counts a lot more, being so close in time. Same with all these bounce levels. So all of these are supports, but the immediate, support that sticks out is at 278. So basically, if you take out 349 or 278, those are going to be two catalysts, one up and one down. If it falls below 278, I think it can drop to 225, 230. Don't get upset about it. It would be a reason to enter. In fact, I just tried to record this video earlier and the audio wasn't going, and I drew this arrow. I said this will be the downside scenario of that arrow. You can make it like here somewhere. The reason I left it up there is because it was a wonky head and shoulder, but it's not quite. So let's say if it loses a level, the level counts as a mini loss for the bulls. And believe me, I have been, this is gentle, this arrow. The arrow should be lower, but let's leave it there. I think this is a good enough support for now, and this is a much better support. This here is basically the banking crisis that we just had on Wall Street. Remember? Okay, the regional bank crisis. So the current sandbox is sellers / resistance buyers. So if I'm an active trader, not an investor, I would want to get long if it breaks out or closer to support. And if I get long here, I should put stops if I'm a trader. Then if I'm wrong, I'm out, and I'll try again later against these supports. That's the trader mentality. The investor mentality for me is that, okay, if I believe in this thing for the long term, I'll take a bite, a small position, leaving room to add on big moves. And if it breaks out of here, they sometimes, most often, come back down to test for footing. I would get long on that dip. So chasing the rally is not on the breakout. Then I end up paying up for the stuff, especially if I'm using options. Get long here to swing back up here and break out. If you wanted to short it, and it gets here, I would like buy a put or something against this high and stop out if I'm wrong. Okay, so those are the trading comments. The general comments, it's a story about balance sheets in the long term, whether they play their cards right. So I've heard their management speak a couple of times. They sound like smart people. So I wouldn't bet against them. And the price will move almost directly with Bitcoin prices. So that's a risk you also have to live through. I'm a bull on Bitcoin prices, probably going to 42 or 45 in the next few months. I've been long from the bottom. So I'm not in a rush to book my profits, and I'm patient waiting for it to unfold higher. But if we had another correction in Bitcoin, in risk assets, like if the market freaks out in totality, like Powell is speaking on Wednesday, who knows what the fudge this guy is going to say? He's an idiot, or at least he says idiotic things, and he doesn't know his job. So he might move markets temporarily this way or the other. It will affect MSTR. So it looks like the earnings headline is out of the way. I didn't look at the earnings too deeply. I know they grew sales a little bit versus expectations. It looks like they delivered about what people were expecting. But again, I don't think this is a matter of sales or profitability. If you look at this P&L, you can tell that it's not a typical stock. Look at it, choppy and nothing but spending. But I think it's a story of balance sheets. Like in the future, how much are these assets going to be worth? So it's an unconventional stock. So don't treat it like, don't look at it from the lens of a typical stock. This is a weekly chart with all of the lines. I had a note to stop out here, and if you did, you avoided this whole thing. But that was months and months and months ago. We're looking at 5 years worth of data. And you can see how I had a box that says seller. We're just going into that box. And this one is from last August. These struggles resemble a lot like the NASDAQ and the S&P. The NASDAQ broke out from February, which this one looks like it has as well. This is February highs, and they're trying to break out from that. The S&P is at the breakout from February. So this guy represents, quote, the market pretty well, too. There's that to worry about. Moving averages and such, they're starting to curl up on the daily chart. You can see the red above the yellow above the blue. So maybe they rounded a bottom. Shorter term, you probably can see we were seeing that little temporary box we were playing inside. And if you're a really active trader, you can get even smaller time frame and trade more closer to current price necklines. For example, on this level, I can see some supports that I couldn't see on the higher time frame. So I'm not talking 279 anymore. I'm talking 296 and 292 and 289 versus the mini breakout at 328. Okay, so the smaller time frame you go, the more information you have. But it always depends on what kind of a trader I am. If I'm a slowpoke trader, I don't need to be looking at 15-minute charts. Okay, so the 2-hour chart will be just fine. The daily chart would be just fine. Everyone should look at the weekly chart to get perspective on where the heck we are. This looks like a pretty massive fail. It's not a good idea to get long going into that fail. But oh boy, if they clear it, they'll probably get to 500. But that doesn't mean let's go buy calls going to 500. First, you have this first hurdle we just talked about, 349. Second hurdle is that. And then you have this whole area is going to be resistive. So 308 from where it is to 500 is going to be a massive amounts of resistance at various levels. And if you want to get really granular, you can switch candles a little bit and look at 410 sounds pivotal to me. 410 plus or minus $2. Another line is 489, but 410 is useful because it is between that 300 and 500 level we just talked about. All right, I wouldn't short that stock. A lot of people hate it, and a lot of people love it. There's almost nobody in between. Like they either hate it or they love it. And whenever there's emotions involved, I worry about the investors. They make pretty bad decisions.